Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Adventure for the Atari 2600, brought to us by Atari. Adventure was one of the first games available on the Atari 2600 that actually had an end. Instead of going around trying to collect as many points as possible, this game had a set goal. Your goal being to collect a magic chalice that's been taken away by an evil wizard and return it to the main castle. It was created and released in 1979 by Warren Robinette and also features the first known Easter egg in video game history. In this video, I'm going to be showing all three different difficulties of the game, of course explaining what each difficulty brings to the table, as well as doing an extra run at the end of the video to showcase the first Easter egg. So here we go with Adventure for the Atari 2600. When you start up the game, you can select which difficulty you would like to play. We're going to be starting off, of course, with difficulty number 1. In Adventure, you control, well, your hero, who happens to be just a little square. And your goal is to collect different keys. There's 3 castles in the game, with the original game here only featuring 2 castles. In our first level of the game, we're going to grab the black key over to the right after slaying the dragon. The sword item, which you can see, it kind of looks like an arrow facing left. You use this to slay the dragons, and there's 3 different dragons in the game. 2 of them, Grundle and Yorgel, the yellow and green dragons, are the only 2 in level 1. After grabbing the black key from the right side and slaying the 2 dragons, which I like to do as early as you can in some runs, we then grab the black key and go into the giant blue maze, eventually making it to the black castle, going inside and finding the chalice. You can easily tell what item the chalice is. Not only does it have a unique shape, it also flashes. You then need to just return the chalice to the original castle and you've completed Adventure number 1. I know, relatively short and simple, but of course being Atari and also being the first difficulty. The second and third difficulties are actually the real full game, featuring all 3 dragons, all 3 castles, as well as a few other annoyances, such as the mazes, for example this, as well as another maze inside the Black Castle, which you can see is very difficult to navigate at first. Our first goal is to grab the yellow key inside the labyrinth to the right. Taking it inside here, we can just kind of leave that there for now, and we don't really need to mess with it. Throughout this game, 2 and 3, you will see the bat enemy, the worst enemy in the entire game. This bat will consistently get in your way. He takes items and puts them at random other places, exchanging them for other items. And he does this all the time. Now there is a way to kind of cheat him, having him grab the yellow key while inside the yellow castle, locking the yellow castle in the meantime and getting him kind of stuck in there. A little bit difficult to do, and I won't be doing that in this. After going through the blue maze to grab the white key, I head to the White Castle. Inside here, I then head back and I grab the bridge item. The dragons at any point that they're chasing you, as you can see, each one has a different speed to it. They also have different properties as far as what items they prefer to protect. If a dragon swallows you, it's not quite game over yet, because you can actually reset and actually continue on where you left off. It's kind of like the first game to use really kind of a continue button. The bat enemy, as you can see, not only picks up items, he also picks up enemies constantly, picking them up and also dragging them around, including after you've slayed one of the dragons, he'll pick up the corpse and start carrying that around. He doesn't care what he grabs as long as he has an item in his hand. Inside the White Castle is the location for the black key during game number 2. Having the bridge in its correct spot, I'm going to run through and grab the key. With the key in my hand, I'm now going to travel back through all the areas we've traveled to and get to basically where the Black Castle is. I also recommend keeping the sword with you if possible. Using this to slay the third and final dragon is almost essential, especially your first times through. Rindle, the red dragon, is extremely fast and extremely aggressive. Traveling into the Black Castle without the sword your first time around is definitely not recommended. The game featured a lot of firsts, like I already mentioned, and it was also based on another game that had come out, a text adventure called Colossal Cave Adventure, or just simply Adventure in a lot of its other iterations. Basically, the higher-ups at Atari said it couldn't be done trying to translate that kind of game onto an Atari cartridge, but Warren Robinette was able to do so. After opening up the Black Castle, I have to be very careful while grabbing the chalice. Since I did not bring the sword with me, you go up one screen, dropping off the key before going up, quickly grabbing the chalice as fast as possible and immediately backtracking out of the room. Of course, the red dragon is going to give chase. Sometimes, if you're lucky, like I was here, the bat showed up and ended up helping me out as I grabbed the bat as he grabs the chalice. So now I'm carrying the bat, the chalice, and the dragon's chasing me. But thankfully, just over to the right of where we started, the open castle awaits us. I can get the bat to take off the dragon away from me and use the chalice inside of the yellow castle to complete adventure number 2. With the second adventure complete, now let's move on to Adventure 3. Now, Adventure 3 is just like 2 as far as the complete game included. No more of the game is added here. However, the game does have randomly placed items. There's only a handful of places certain items will go, and the dragons themselves will sometimes appear all together. For example, I'm able to slay all the dragons right away, leaving it a pretty open area for me to explore, with the only thing that I really have to worry about being the bat. You gotta love placing the sword on the ground and the dragon just walks over it, and it still counts as killing him. Also, randomly at times, if the bat is carrying a dragon around and flies over the sword, the bat will usually pick up the sword, take it with it, and kill the dragon in the same process. Just the little interesting quirks that this game has to offer. The black key, thankfully for me during this adventure, was located right in the blue maze. I don't even have to explore for it. Also located in the beginning of the Black Maze was the magnet item. The magnet item, while not extremely useful at all times, does bring items towards you. For example, I'm able to find the chalice located inside of the Black Castle still. Since I have a hard time kind of exploring a little bit, I'll instead pick up the magnet, take that back to the room I just was in where the chalice was, pull it through the wall I couldn't walk through, and make this maze a heck of a lot easier for myself. Now that I have the chalice, I still need to get back to the yellow castle, as well as get the yellow key. The bat just happened to bring the bridge to me, but, thank you, bat. Don't quite need that right now. Thankfully, the yellow key, though, is in my pathway. The only problem is the bat is trying to fly around carrying all kinds of bodies around with him. Sometimes you have to also be careful because the dragons, if you slay them at certain positions, you won't be able to walk through them. Here, unfortunately, the bat does take the chalice from me, but he leaves the yellow key, and I'm able to take that back and open up here. Once I have it opened up, I can grab the chalice that the bat now has left after opening up the castle and finish off Adventure 3. Not the conventional way usually you would complete this, but I just happened to be lucky while playing that that's what I got. Now time for one last final run for Adventure. We're going to go back to difficulty number 2. This way all the items are in their default correct places. The only item in the entire game that doesn't change from level 2 to level 3 is the special item that we need just for the Easter egg. And that's of course what we're getting here. I start off by picking up the bat enemy and carrying it with me for a little bit, replacing the sword that I had with me with the key. The dragons that are around here can be defeated still, and they will get in my way, especially the red dragon later on. But thankfully I was able to kill the first one at the beginning of this run. After exploring a bit, we'll eventually finally make it to the area with the White Castle. After all these years, I still get a little bit lost during this dungeon. With the White Castle open, and I still have the bat in my possession and can use him to pick up items, I'm going to now pick up the bridge item. I need to take the bridge into the White Castle and use that to help me cross over so I can actually get to the black key. Thankfully, the yellow dragon shows up eventually. I can use him to kind of help me out a little bit. Switching off the bridge for the dragon, the bat picks him up and flies him off screen. I can now have at least a few seconds to place the bridge properly, travel through it, and go and grab the black key. Of course, you saw me do it in a little bit different way when I did this mode the first time around, but this is just kind of an alternate way to grab the black key. Now I replace myself once again using the bat to help me out and swap him for the keys so that at least I can have the black key eventually. But we also need another item, and that's the bridge. For this time we actually need to use both the bridge and the black key inside of the Black Castle. The only problem with doing all this, of course, is trying to travel back through all these different screens without the bat taking any of the items that you essentially need to at least too far away from you. Like I said, I always seem to kind of mess this thing up, and don't worry, I'll mess it up again in just a little bit. After finally making it through, I can grab the black key. Thankfully, the bat did not grab it when he was currently on screen there, and then take this back out. Now, back near the blue maze, thankfully, I now have the bridge and the black key. You don't have to worry, of course, about the yellow key if you're going just for the Easter egg like I am here. I'm going to travel back through this maze and get to where the Black Castle is and open up the door at least. That way, I don't have to worry about having the black key anymore. I also get extremely lucky, as you can see down below. The bat, while flying around carrying the dragons, actually dropped the dragon itself off on the sword, killing the yellow one. So now, only the red dragon remains. Here, I'm also lucky enough to grab the bat itself and travel along with that. And I can use that to help me out a little bit, holding the bat as well as grabbing the bridge. This way, at least, I can get the bridge near where I need it. I still have to use the bat to kind of trick and pick up another item to at least stop bothering me for a short period of time. Thankfully, that good old yellow dragon was right nearby. Now I have the bridge. I'm going to drop the bridge off and pick it up in a specific way. This way, I'm actually in between the two pieces of the bridge. I then have to travel through quickly in order to eventually make it my way down to this room over here. It's difficult to see, of course, because I'm invisible and blending in with the background. But eventually we'll make it to this room, run in, drop the bridge off, go to a very small room below, and grab an almost invisible dot. The dot itself is only like a pixel big, while yourself is like 16 pixels big. Once you have it, listening for that sound effect when you did grab it, take it out of the castle. We now have to take it to the screen right of the entrance of the yellow castle. So basically, south 1 and right 1 of where we started initially. We're going to travel over to this area and drop it off. We now need to gather 2 items. Now, I don't think the bodies of the dragons count as one of those items, but I could be wrong. But the bat holding another item, not the dragon, I think does count. So, right now I brought the dragon and the bat over to here. The bat ends up flying off with the key that I just brought. So, I'm going to go grab another item. Hopefully about the same time, either the bat has exchanged another item and flying across screen, or he's picked up the dragon at least and dropped off the item I just had. So, I travel back through the maze a little bit and come back to where the sword is located. Then, exit out of the area again, with the sword still in my hands. I drop that off, pick up the little dot, the bat flies by, and I'm able to walk over through the wall to the right and find the Easter egg, created by Warren Robinette. You can also hold up here, it kind of takes you to a weird another image of the blue dungeon area, but there you go. That's it. The first ever video game Easter egg. And with that, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.